Okay, Tammy, before we hop into your session, I wanted to go over a couple things just so I can answer any questions you might have beforehand. Before we connected, I pulled you some oracle cards. We're not going to go over them
Uh-huh.
in the session, but I will send you pictures and guidebook descriptions, and that'll give a deeper level of messaging. And then I asked each one of your chakras what kind of crystals would help with their healing and their growth. And I built you a crystal grid. So I'll send you pictures of that as well. And then
Cool.
I'll send the replay to you today. So any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Do you have you been experiencing any type of tightness in your chest as of recently? And it may not even be like physical tightness, it might also be like energetic tightness in there.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay. When we were doing the meditation before we started recording, I felt a lot of tightness in this area, and I was asking your higher self what was going on there, and they said that we've been feeling pressure, kind of like a weight on us, which that might also have to do with the things we're going to talk about, the notes that your higher self left me here. But have you been feeling, it's almost like an anxiety that we haven't been able to kind of get rid of or shit? Have you had anything like that as of recent?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do we know where it's coming from or why it's there?
Well, today it could be just being on a Zoom that I've never done before. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that might be it too.
yeah.
I have a feeling that it is one, and congratulations for putting yourself out there too, because that's big
Yeah.
stuff. That's amazing. So we love that growth. uh, to me, it kind of feels like that it's almost a pressure of what am I doing here? What am I supposed to be doing? Like almost kind of like a like a lost feeling a little bit. And that sometimes that makes it feel like we're kind of running out of time, that we're not going to be able to complete something, that we're not seeing all of the chapters of our book, and it's making us feel like a little lost and confused. Um,
hmm
that's a little bit of that feeling that I'm feeling within your chest. So what is going on there? Is that how we have been feeling recently?
Yeah, I've had anxiety about like what's next or like surrendering, just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of people are going through that right now too. So I don't think it's just you, but yeah. Okay. So hopefully we can clear up some of that today and get some direction and some clarity. Okay. So I saw in the notes that you kind of just wanted to leave your session open and see what comes through. Are there any questions that have come up in between booking the session and now?
No. I mean, I don't have like a direct connection to my higher self or my guides. I mean, I don't know how to do that other than I know that I get messages through song and synchronicities and stuff like that.
Okay. Is that something you want to talk about today? Like how to strengthen the channels to be able to hear them more clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will add that to the list here. Okay. So we'll go over what your higher self wanted to bring to your attention. And then we will get into the other parts. So let me ask you a question. We did a energetic signature reading together, right?
We did.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, because there's a lot up here, but I vaguely remember in your reading previously where I had spoken to you about being more of kind of like a warrior of peace and not having to be like arsenal energy in this incarnation, that you can be kind of like a softer energy in this one. Was that you that I told? Okay. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, because it was coming up again in this here. And I was like, I think I already talked to her about this. But your higher self wanted me to take it deeper with your energy body, because there's still some energetic cords running to these other incarnations of like, no, we have to be this arsenal warrior. Okay. So we're going to work through that today. So when I went to your energy field, I saw a chipmunk, and it was kind of running around, and chipmunks are often representative of collecting resources. They put all like the nuts and everything in their mouths. And I was like, hey, do you want me to follow you? And it was like, yes. And so I started running after it. And for some reason, I had flip-flops on in the ethers. And I was like, why do I have these flip-flops on trying to chase this? It was very funny. And then we came up to this tree, and the chipmunk, he had this tiny little nub finger, and he was like pointing at it. And so I walked over, and there was almost like this portal that you could walk through. And I went inside. It was almost giving like kind of Alice in Wonderland vibes, where she kind of like falls down the hole.
I
And
love
sometimes,
Alice in Wonderland.
okay, you have very Alice in Wonderland-esque like
My
decor behind
my
you.
cat's name is Alex. My
Oh,
cat.
nice. Okay. Okay. I always just whatever symbology comes up, I always just say it because it typically resonates with people. And a lot of this is symbolic. We're about to speak about deeper, and symbols is a way for our higher self and our spirit team to speak with us as well. So some of this stuff that we're about to talk about is also going to be downloaded at later times as well. Okay. So I went inside the tree, and there was a kind of like a hall of mirrors everywhere, and they were going all up the inside of the tree, and they were representative of your ancestors in your past incarnations are kind of all happening at one time. But per your energy field, I can see that you're going to have a lot more access in this incarnation than you have so far. So you will be able to start speaking with these different versions of yourself, even though you seem kind of like blocked right now, if you will. Okay. Is that something that you have been actively working towards?
No.
Okay. Okay. Is it something that you want to be able to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I just have no direction, you know. I
Like
feel
how do
like
I
I'm out.
how do I get from A to B?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Okay. So, okay, let me add that in here. I'll talk about that. Okay. Because you definitely have I can see where in your field you will be able to do that very easily and very clearly. It's just a matter of remembering how to do it and picking up tools and resources, and then actively spending time like working on doing it, right? So I go in, see all these different mirrors, different versions of you, and then there was this very bright light that was coming in from the top of the tree, and I was like, oh, what is that? And then I kind of got sucked up into it, like almost like an alien like beam. And so I started going up the light, and then I come out into the space, and it was just blinding light, like so bright. I was like, I can't see. I was like, I need some sunglasses. And so I was like, can y'all turn this down so I can see what's going on? And then did you grow up in a religious household? Or have any type
Yeah,
of like religious stuff?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because the person that came to meet me was Saint Peter. And I was like, what are you doing here? I was like, I don't ever have any like connection with Saint Peter. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any connection with him in this incarnation?
Not that no.
Okay. I think this is coming from a different incarnation. Okay. But not necessarily like the religious context of St. Peter, more like his archetype. So that's one of the things that your higher self was saying that's going to download later. Okay, but for right now, okay. So I'm speaking to Peter, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he was like, "I need her to look at this book. I need her to look at these inscriptions." And I said, "Okay." So I said, "Can I look at them?" And he said, "Yeah." So we walked over, and there was this book on kind of like this podium, and I look down at it, and then two lions jumped off the page, and now I'm chasing them. I'm like, why am I having to chase all these things? So I'm chasing them. And your higher self said that they are representative of the lions that are depicted on the Chariot tarot card. Do you have tarot cards that you mess around with
I
or play
don't have
with?
tarot.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay. Well, again, she said that's going to download later, the tarot stuff. Okay. So chasing them, and your higher self said that they are representative of seeking knowledge because knowledge is strength. So what does that mean to you when I say that?
Oh, I'm always seeking knowledge. I feel like that's something I'm doing daily. I
Yes.
don't know if I'm applying it correctly though. That's the thing.
Okay.
I can absorb all kinds of stuff, but putting it into action sometimes isn't,
I do. Yeah. So you're giving chipmunk, just like we're seven, right? But
yeah,
eventually the chipmunk needs to eat the things too.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Instead of just being in the cheeks. Okay. So yes, sometimes we can be on a perpetual hamster wheel of just learning but not applying. So where are you feeling like there are gaps? Like what is off with the knowledge integration? Or where are we trying to get to with the knowledge?
I don't know. I did a chakra scan with you, and then you
Mhm.
sent me a bunch of material, and I did that for a while, but I never really caught on to some of the stuff, you know?
I do. I think maybe it's because okay, when you're just learning a lot of things and you don't have necessarily like an output goal of what you're going to do with it, it doesn't get funneled in a way that's applicable. Does that make
That makes
sense?
sense. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we're learning all this stuff. Like, what am I gonna do with it over here? So that makes sense because your higher self, we're gonna work on some goals stuff today as well. So before we get into that, after I finished chasing the lions, there was this being that came up to me, and it was representative of not only your energy body in this incarnation, but other ones as well. And I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I introduced myself. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm preparing for the upcoming battle." And I was like, "What?" And she had this whole like suit of armor on. And I said, "What battle?" And she said, "Spiritual warfare." I said, "Okay, girl." I said, "What spiritual warfare?" And she is talking about kind of just the things that are happening in the collective right now, all the dismantling things, right? And she said, "This is the only way that they will listen." And I said, "Who is they?" And I looked over and it was like a whole bunch of like snarky, like hoity toity, like elitism, like type of people, capitalism, all these different things. And I said, okay, so let's stop there. Do you feel like um any of your energy and intention has been pointed at a lot of that stuff recently?
Like spiritual warfare?
Maybe not to the extent of like spiritual warfare because she was being very like intensive about about it because she was also referring to some of the things that your other incarnations have done, but more so just a lot of the seemingly negative things that are happening in the world right now. I mean, there are a lot of negative things, but have you been like hyper focusing on that?
Not really. Like, I don't watch the news.
Hmm.
I bypass anything that comes through my feed that's negative. I don't actually see anything negative in my feed anymore. Not really. Like if I'm on TikTok or, you know,
I wonder if you are picking up on it on the bigger like psychic grid. Like if you are feeling that might also be kind of like the pressure in your, oh, okay. So we can, because, okay, let me see how your higher self wants me to say this. You do not feel like you have open channels. Okay. But per what your higher self is saying, you actually are very psychically gifted and inclined. And that's probably one of the reasons that you have dropped a lot of that stuff out of your 3D field because it affects you so deeply. But at the same time, we as light workers can still pick up on things that are going on collectively, like cosmically, and feel the weights of it, even if it's not seeing it with our actual physical eyes, like in our algorithms and in our fields. It's like when there's a lot of people on the planet, they're going through strife and just negative experiences, it does create a weight within us because we are here to anchor the light and to help people heal and ascend. And so we can still feel the effects of it, even if we're not consciously pointing our energy and attention on it. Does that make sense?
yeah, I feel energy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yes.
I get I'm super emotional. Like I cry a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
That might also be the pressure that you are kind of feeling about time running out, which is kind of funny with Alice in Wonderland as well. Like in a rush. Um, okay, let me see how she wants me to say it. Feeling like we are not helping in the way that we need to quote unquote help in whatever that way that means, because you can feel so much pain and strife, right? And
Yeah.
so this and like, oh, I need to be doing more. Okay. And like, what am I supposed to be doing? Okay. So when I was talking to your energy body, and again, sometimes these energy bodies are still connected to these past versions of us in this incarnation that were kind of like focused on that stuff more. So I said, if we are pointing our energy and intention on them over here, okay, we are doing that because we want to create effective change. But what ends up happening is we're just giving them more of our energy and attention. And we're actually just making them more powerful. Okay. And when I said that, she was like, oh, this is only the way that I know how to do it. And I said, okay. I said, can you turn around for me and can you focus on us? And she was like, who is us? And then she turned around and she saw like all of these light workers on the earth, and they had also on suits of armor like her. And she said, oh, no, 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 I don't want that for them. I don't want them to have to do that. I do not want them to have to go to battle and to war and all the spiritual warfare. So she was like, I'm okay with doing that. I don't want them to have to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's very kind and sweet of you, but that's a big burden for you to carry. Okay. So have there been times in your life where you felt that you had to be that person? Where like you have to be the suit of armor, you have to be the strength for other people. Um, that it is your core soul responsibility.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I've felt that. Yeah.
Okay. How are we feeling about that now? Is that something we're still carrying, or is that something that we have released?
I feel like I am more plugged into me and myself a lot more now. Like I'm letting go of responsibility, like thinking that I have to be responsible for everyone. Releasing a lot of control. I was, I have OCD.
Mhm.
That was something that I was struggling with. So I'm in therapy for that, which is a control thing. Um,
Yeah.
I did have a past life thing, something with another person that was connected to the OCD in this
Mm.
lifetime. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is your OCD, and we don't have to get into it, like whatever you're comfortable with, but is it more so OCD with your thoughts, or is it like behavioral patterns like outside of you? Or is it like controlling yourself energetically? Because there can be a lot of different OCDs.
Oh yeah. Well, I've had quite a few of them kick in, honestly. It started out with like I think with COVID, it started out with like germs and stuff like that,
Mhm.
getting really like overwhelmed with, germs. And then and fighting intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
This last year, especially, I've been fighting. It's not so much now, it's calming down quite a bit, but yeah, they were pretty bad.
I have been there myself. I when I, therapy years ago. Awful intrusive thoughts, and the therapist I had was like, oh yeah, that's another form of OCD, is actually your thoughts. Like you can go on these like rabbit holes and just like spiral out of control, and it's something that I
Yeah.
still like work on to this day of like, no, we're not doing that. Okay. Right, because once they start feeding on each other, then they just go off.
Yeah, it'll ruminate. It'll
Yes.
keep, it's like a cycle that just keeps going and going if you don't, you know, put a stop
Hmm.
to it. So,
I used to, and like even positive ones, I would have like, okay, I need to go to the grocery store. And then I literally couldn't stop the thoughts until I went to the grocery store. Like it'd be like grocery store, grocery store, grocery store. Right?
that's how my brain works too. I'll have a
Yeah.
word that'll pop up in my head and it'll just keep going and going and going and going. And I just have to be like, ignoring it.
Yes. Do you ever get like that with music or like having to look something up? and you have to like do it right then.
I feel there's music playing in my head all day. I
Yeah.
wake up with song in my head. I fall asleep with song in my head. So
Yeah. And you said that your spirit guides and your higher self like to talk to you through music as well, right? Like
I
that's
feel
the
like
way that you communicate.
I feel like I get messages through music. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever set the intention when you are listening to music of, hey, I want to receive a download. I want to upgrade my channels. I want to be able to hear more clearly or perceive things more clearly.
Yeah, I've said that I want that.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't know that I don't know what I'm doing. That's the thing. Like,
I would say that you do know what you're doing, but you have forgot, like many people. Like they're
yeah.
the gifts and the talents and the abilities are in there. It's just a matter of re-remembering and taking down all of those like illusion things, right? So I think that stuff is
Mhm.
already, I think having that perspective shift, that was very beneficial for me on my journey of like, oh no, I actually know how to do all this stuff already. I just need to take all the facadal stuff off and the distortions. Okay. So when I was speaking with her, and she was like, "Oh no, I don't want this for the rest of the collective," I said, "What would be even more powerful to create forward movement in the collective is to stop focusing on all of that stuff over there, like all of the manipulation and the just the very heavy, dense energy rating off of them, and to repivot and focus on us and each other." I said, that is actually what is going to make the effective changes. I said, watch this. And so I was looking at them, okay, over here, and we were all looking at them, and all of our batteries were just drained and we are burnt out and exhausted. I said, now turn around and focus on us and what we're doing. And then all of our batteries like shot up, right? Because we're all about, love and support and unity and compassion and empathy and all these different things. And she was like, oh, I said, right. And we need to peel away from that and just, how can I help my magical community? So your higher self wanted to pose the question of, in 5 years from now, let's think about the magical community, not the general populace. Okay. But the people who are self aware and healing and growing and want the best for everybody and are supporting one another. What do you want for them in 5 years in this world? What would you want their world to look like?
Um, kind of want to be like calling in my tribe,
Mm-hmm.
So, like I don't really have that. So I don't even know what that feels like.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Soul tribe members. That sounds great.
Um, being able to connect better with my guides, my higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna start singing lessons soon, so that's something that's new.
Oh, that's exciting.
Getting out of my comfort zone, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not really sure. Just a more fun, you know. Probably
What
need
does
to
that mean to you? And what does more fun mean?
just being around people that give me joy and, we lift each other and, right now I don't really have, big like I don't really have a lot of friends. So
Yeah. Okay. What would you want for other people in 5 years for their realities?
magic for them to have fun, for them to be more relaxed, to not have so much stress, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm making some notes here. Okay. Fun, relax, stress-free. Okay. So, what steps are you taking right now to propel yourself towards that reality?
Haven't really done anything. I've been a stay-at-home mom this whole time. I think the first thing that's going to get me out of my house is going to be the singing lessons that I start, and maybe I'll meet somebody, during that time.
Yeah. What about like online presences or like getting into a community of some sorts, like spiritually online?
Oh, I have like a bunch of people I follow on TikTok, and I've been working with you this whole time. I've been getting readings from you for like, I don't know, I think I've had like 4 done from
Yeah.
you. So I am following, people who I find interest in what they're doing. So,
hmm What
yeah.
what about networking with said persons? Like having that outreach of connectivity to other people and like having conversations with them and like deepening those levels of relationships.
Yeah, I haven't gone there yet.
Okay.
Like I've
That's
I've
what
left I've left comments and stuff. I've left comments, but I don't make like TikTok videos or any of that, you know.
I do.
I'm not like out there.
What about finding community groups to be a part of?
Yeah,
Either
I
in
could do
your
that.
either in your like 3D reality or like online.
Well, like I said, right now I just follow people.
hmm
That's it. I don't really have like group connections or anything like that.
Yes. Okay. So this is gonna be tough love from your higher self. Okay. So your higher self is saying, hey, if we want to find our soul tribe members, we do have to kind of put ourselves out there and step outside of our comfort zone a little bit more and create those connections in order to have them in our life because they don't usually come knocking at our door. We're usually the ones that have to output and create the space for them to find us. That doesn't mean that you have to make TikToks. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean that
I'm
you have to
probably
make
not
social
gonna
media.
do that.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to do that. Okay. Um, another really great way, and I don't know where you live, and you don't have to share that either, but another great way to do that is sometimes when we are wanting soul tribe members to come in, we're thinking about them only in like spiritual contexts, but there's a lot of ways that you can meet awakened conscious beings through joining like hiking groups or art community classes or singing classes like you're doing, or I don't know if you have local metaphysical stores that host different classes or yoga or things of that nature. But when or volunteer projects as well, when you have people that have a common mission of wanting either an experience or some type of outcome, like through volunteer projects, you, the type of person that you are going to resonate with those type of people a lot easier than like the general population of people who are just, going out to bars and doing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just they're in different places in their journeys. Okay, what comes up for you when I say that?
Well, I'm definitely gonna start doing more stuff that's outside of my home,
hmm
because I've been home with my kids this whole time. So this is where I'm just starting, like
hmm
to explore anything outside of here. So I was going to start with the singing lessons, and then I might do some classes, art classes or
hmm
pottery or whatever this summer, and bring my daughter with me. So her and I are connecting too.
Love that. That sounds super
Yeah.
fun to do together. Yeah. What drew you to do the singing classes?
I've always liked singing, and I feel like when I do it, it's like healing for me.
hmm hmm
And music always has been healing. I don't know how good I would be at it,
It's
but
okay.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna just try and get myself out there and uh, get myself out of my comfort zone. That's something that's a little scary, but I'm excited.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that you could also ask if there are any different incarnations of you that were also singers that you could channel from as well. Because you have that ability. Everybody has that ability to channel these different facets of self, but sometimes all you have to do is ask and then you will receive. And so your higher self is like, hey, you should ask if there's any other timeline versions of you, and that you can pull that down while you're singing, which will give you more confidence and empowerment. And you can also do that with other facets of yourself, like with confidence. Like, hey, are there any of my versions that are really confident with stepping outside of their comfort zone? Can you send me some of your energy? Have you tried that before with anything?
No.
Okay. I would, next time that you are going into a new environment or just somewhere that's kind of like making you feel anxious a little bit, is to take a moment with yourself. And I know you got kids, sometimes that's difficult to find a minute, but when you can, and saying, if there are any other versions of myself that I have access to, I would like to channel your energy for this. Insert whether it's singing or confidence or, you know, whatever else that you're wanting to do in life, because that is going to be one of the ways that you get into that hall of mirrors and you start opening up your channels to be able to hear more clearly.
Okay.
Because kind of like what your higher self is saying here, with kind of all this knowledge and we don't have a goal to point it towards, we're not having any output. So if you give your different incarnations or your higher self or your guides, like, hey, I need you for this specifically, then you're going to open your channels to be able to receive that frequency. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. With your higher self and your guides, where do we feel that there is a disconnect with being able to hear them?
I don't hear anything. I mean, other than I believe they're sending me messages through song and synchronicities and stuff like that. I don't hear anything.
Okay, why do you want to hear them? Let's start there. And that's there, everybody has a different answer. So, but it will change the way that our interpretation happens. So why do you want to hear them?
Guidance, making, decisions every now and then if I need the extra, guidance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else comes up?
Just being more connected to myself, you know, my own intuition, stuff that I've struggled with before.
Yeah.
So,
Are we having not issues is not the right word, but are we having some difficulties with making decisions or trusting self?
yes.
Okay, what's going on there?
Well, that's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
Well, I'm just really wishy-washy. Like, I I could be really wishy-washy with direction, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing, or, what I should do next. And I should know those things. I should know in my heart and in my own mind what it is that I want to do or where I want to go. But sometimes I feel directionless.
When I am listening to the words that you're saying and feeling the energy within your core, what I am hearing on a deeper level is I am worried about making the wrong decision, but I'm also worried about failure.
Could be.
I'm worried about making these options and then failing self. And sometimes that happens because we've had a lot of people fail us in life. And then the greatest hurt that we could incur is failing self. And so we keep ourselves safe in our comfort zone so that we don't fail self, because that's like, okay, well, we can't do that. Okay, we're the only person we got. Okay. And I know that's not true because you have kids and all that stuff, but even so,
Mhm.
I have been in these places where it just feels like you're kind of like lonely on this island that nobody can reach. Okay. And it's like, okay, well, I can't strip the island out from underneath me because then what do I have? Okay. So does that resonate?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. So why are we worried about um or why do you feel like that if you make a quote unquote wrong decision that you won't be able to pivot back to your most aligned timeline? Like, why are we seeing these quote unquote mistakes that you would make as these detrimental um experiences that we could have? Like, it sounds like we're taking it to the far, like catastrophizing, right? Kind of like those
Oh,
thoughts that we were talking
that's
about.
part of my OCD. I do catastrophize.
Mhm.
I go to the worst case scenario. I'm doing less of that now,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's common theme for me is to catastrophize or, make it bigger than it is, you know?
Hmm. How much inner child healing work have you done?
I mean, I've been on a healing journey for the last 4 years. I'm not sure. I don't, I don't really know like how to talk to my inner children. I mean,
Mhm.
I have, just put it out there. Um, I don't know.
From what I'm reading from your field is they have had to pick up the catastrophizing as a safety trauma response because you went through some things in childhood that were made you very hypersensitive and very hyper aware of your external experiences and your external stimuli. And so that's why you're running this program of like, hey, I need to hyper analyze and overthink everything in every situation and how it can potentially end up. But when we do that, you end up hyper focusing on the negative ones, and then you end up
Uh-huh.
getting negative experiences in your
Hmm.
reality, right? When we could hyper, and this is not something that's super easy to do. This is a lot of inner child healing and deprogramming and things, but it takes just as much energy and effort to hyper focus and overanalyze on positive experiences.
Hmm.
Okay, but just as a if you've got trauma down in there, your trauma is like, no, we don't need to focus on that stuff because that stuff's not keeping us safe. Okay. So, do you feel safe in your current reality right now?
Sometimes, sometimes I feel safe. Other times, no. It's kind of up and down sometimes.
Are you feeling unsafe in your reality on the external stuff, or is it more internal?
I'm probably internal.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
what
there's nothing outside of me that's where the catastrophizing comes from. It's like there's nothing even going on
yeah.
sometimes, but I can put myself there in a state of, you know, it's less now though. Like
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's all the healing you've done too. And all
yeah.
the work that you've done is paying off, right? Okay. So were there people in your life when you were younger that made you become very hyper aware of self internally, like the way that you mitigate your emotions or don't mitigate your emotions, and you had to become like very like tippy toe type of energy around other people?
Probably my parents, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, the catastrophizing like is this vortex that's inside. And that's like, hey, and that's also leading into the indecisiveness that we're seeing and like the fears of that and everything. That probably is also causing some disruptions in your channels with your higher self and your guides, because if we're not trusting self, how are we trusting some voices over here that don't
Hmm.
actually have tangible form? And so, like, how do we know that they're telling us what we need to hear or that it's actually like safe? Because sometimes then we also have this other programming that's running of like, oh, that stuff's evil, or I'm cuckoo for hearing things, so it can be a lot of layers that we're working through. Let me recenter with your higher self and see where we're gonna take this next. So let's see. Okay. What would it mean to trust yourself? What would that mean to you?
I know I would feel better if I trusted myself more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you feel better?
I'd have more direction. I wouldn't doubt myself
Mm-hmm.
and my
Okay.
decisions. I wouldn't be as wishy-washy about what I want to do. I'd be stronger in my decision making and
What is it that you want to be doing in life? If you had all the tools and the resources and the finances, what would you want to be doing?
Having fun.
Okay,
I've spent my
that's
whole
fine.
life
It's okay.
in
It's fun.
survival. I've been in survival mode my whole life. Like I'm finally getting to a place now where I feel more at peace.
Hmm.
And even that has been uncomfortable because I'm used to having something constantly keeping me, doing things all the time, being stressed out all the time. So when I do find that calm, I start, you know, wondering what else should I be doing? Should I be doing something?
Hmm.
I can't explain it. It's like this like being comfortable is almost uncomfortable.
Oh no, I know exactly what you mean. Okay, that's something I'm
Yeah.
still healing with itself too. Of like, hey, it's okay if we don't have things that we have to do 24/7 and we're just vibing. Okay. Okay. So what does fun mean to you?
Getting out of the house more, going on trips with my family, not anywhere far, but just, having more time with my family. And singing and dancing, those are things I love doing now. Through my healing, I wasn't really wanting to do any of that, and now I am. So I'm finding joy in more things. I'm just trying to allow myself to be in that joy instead of saying, there's more to do, instead of just being. I've been a doer, so being a beer is not as easy.
Yes. Yes, an exister. Okay.
Yeah.
So it also sounds like that you are wanting new experiences because to me, it sounds like that for the majority of your life, you've been very constricted.
Yeah.
And that could be for various different reasons. It doesn't even have to be from self-imposed constriction. It can be, a lot of different things. But we have not been able to be our free, liberated self. And at the same time, we're figuring out who we are right now. Like, who even are we? Okay. Probably outside of being a parent or outside of a caretaker, outside of a partner, and like all these different things. Okay. So, new experiences, which I love that for you because it's helping you step outside of your comfort zone too and break out of those paradigms. Um, what kind of questions are you asking your higher self and your guides?
I haven't been asking anything because I don't hear anything.
Yes. So you are a type of person like myself that loves output, input and output. I need like you logical and analytical. Okay. And one of the reasons we're so logical and analytical is because of trauma. Okay. And there's tangibility in logic and analytics. Okay. And proofs and things of that nature. So when I was working with my higher self and guides, I couldn't hear in them. I could not hear anything. It was just nothing. Okay. So one of the things that helped me, which we're going to talk about something else for you, but one of the things that helped me was I said, if I cannot learn how to hear my higher self, I am going to become the higher self to my inner children and speak to them. Even if I cannot hear anything from them, I am going to become the higher self to them and talk to them consistently. And what ended up happening was I started to hear them. And then the channels opened up for me to hear my higher self because I taught myself how to be a higher self. So naturally, I could hear my higher self after that, right? So, one of the things that I would suggest is working with your inner children and your teens on the safety aspects because that's probably also why your OCD is running really rampant is because we don't feel safe. But I don't think it's actually coming from you. I think it's coming from them. I think that you have worked out a ton of stuff that's going on right now in this phase of life. It's just energetic cords with them of not feeling safe. And so sometimes what they'll do is they will throw up all this stuff, not throw up, but they'll send all this stuff up into your consciousness, right? Because they are in a panic state, right? And because you had to become so hyper aware of self, it's like you constantly think that you're doing something wrong. Like, or there's something fundamentally wrong with us. So this is where we have to come in and say, hey, one, I don't need you to protect me. We're safe. I'm in a reality now where we're okay. Okay. Nobody's yelling at us. Nobody's coercing us or manipulating us or, all these different things. We are safe. I need you to explain to me why you do not feel safe. Because when you do that, you're stepping away from the trauma. You're not actually experiencing the trauma in the real time. You are figuring out where the roots of those things first started. Because even though you don't have the same relationship with your parents or whomever has manipulated you in the past or gaslighted you, I don't know if you've been in some narcissistic relationships before, but that can do it too. So when we are coming back to peace within ourselves now and saying, this is not me anymore. All of these OCD tendencies and all of these feelings of not being safe and there are things being wrong with me and that I'm potentially on the wrong path or I'm wasting time and energy and all these things that you are trying to clear out of your field. We have to realize that that is not us anymore. That is coming from them, and we need to figure out how to help them with these things. Okay, what comes up for you when I say that?
I have tried to talk to my inner children and tell them they're safe. I don't know how well it's working.
Okay. Okay. This is where questions, this is going to be the next part, okay, that I said outside of working with inner children. Because you are logical and analytical and you need input and output, we need to be asking questions to our higher self and to our inner children. The best questions are how, what, and why. Yes and no do not work well because those are very definitive. If you're asking what, how, and why, that's discovery. We are trying to get to a root. We are trying to uncover the layers. Now, when you start asking those questions, there's a lot of stuff that comes up with that. It'll start bringing things up to your consciousness, and you're like, oh, okay, I can see where I am getting in my own way, where I have behavioral patterns, where I'm allowing this kind of like catastrophizing. That's why I'm saying with the inner children and realizing this is not current Tammy. These are Tammy's old PTSD and trauma wounds and behavioral patterns and programming. Okay. Because when you are asking these questions, you're going to get answers back and you have to not attach to them. You have to say, I am helping older versions of Tammy with this because you catastrophize and because you have OCD. What will happen if I hadn't have said that was you will start catastrophizing about all of this work that you quote unquote need to do. And like, oh, I must be so unhealed. I must have so much more that I need to uncover and all these different things. No, we are helping these older facets of ourselves. The fact that we can even view them and know the behavioral pattern, because you know what they are. You know where it's all coming from. Like, all of this stuff. Okay. That means that you're already the higher self that's moved on to the other side of healing. But you also have to detach away from like, this is not me anymore and I need to help them. So I want to prep and prepare you for that because when you start asking questions, you're going to have a lot of stuff that starts to come forward and come through because now we're giving our higher self a goal. We're giving our spirit guides and our inner children a goal. Here is a question. I want an answer. That's giving direction and clarity, and then you're going to receive information back. Okay, what questions do you have about that before I say more?
I don't.
Okay, okay. A great way to start this, because you don't have your clairaudient abilities like super, even though you do with your music, but that's just
Just a
one,
little bit.
just one form.
It's
Okay. So with your
it's
clairaudient abilities, because those aren't super clear yet, one, it is very confusing. Do you have a voice in your head, like an internal voice?
yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
always on.
Same. Okay.
It's
I have
constant.
multiple voices in my head. So, when your higher self and your spirit guides and your inner children are talking to you, sometimes we get very in our head about like, oh, I'm just making this up because it's just my voice in my head, right? It's hard to differentiate who is who. So first, what we want to do before we start asking those what, how, and why questions is we want to say, hey, higher self and guides and inner children, I need y'all to talk to me in a different type of personality. I need you to talk to me in a different type of tone, a different type of languaging, a different accent if you want. Okay. Because there are different levels of consciousness. So if you ask them to do that, they will do that for you and make it a lot easier for you to understand them. Okay. If you need questions to ask them, go on Google and type in journal prompts for whatever you want to work on. If it's financial stuff, if it's career stuff, whatever. Okay. Career journal prompts or prompts for my higher self, prompts for my inner children. Let me fix my camera really quick. That would be a really great resource bank of questions to start with. So let's take a area in your life right now that you're trying to improve. What
It's
would
just getting out of my comfort zone. That's definitely one. That's the biggest one right now because I've been home for so long. You know, I have no like sociability, you know, not really out there. So,
yeah. Okay. So a question or questions that we can ask of self or our inner children. Okay. We can ask, what are some ways that I can be more confident? Why am I afraid to be around others? How can I utilize my voice to express myself? Like we're giving them very specific tasks. With your inner children, if you're asking them, you're going to most likely find the root of why you're having issues with these in the first place. Okay. Or if you're asking your higher self, they can help kind of like shed light on why those things happened. Or you can ask your inner children how you can have more fun. How can I be more confident and ask your inner children? Because they're going to give you a different answer than your higher self would. Your higher self's going to give you an adult answer. Okay. Your inner children are going to give you a fun, cutesy answer. Okay. So when you are asking these questions, whatever they might be in the beginning, I would suggest that you ask your inner children and your higher self, both of them, so that you can compare and contrast. Okay. So I would get out a journal, not a journal, but like a sheet of paper, ask your question to your inner children and write out whatever comes up in your mind. Don't try and edit it, just whatever comes up, and then ask your higher self and then write those answers down as well so that you can see the energetic differences between them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good thing to start.
Okay, because you need something tangible.
Yeah.
You need something right? Okay. Okay. So the more that you can ask the how, what, and why questions, this seems like is going to take a lot of work of you having to train yourself to do this. It won't. Once you start gleaning like tiny answers from them and you start doing this with the journal and you start seeing the energetic differences, it's wild how quickly that stuff starts to come in. Okay. It's like, oh, I have been hearing y'all the whole time. I did not know that those were different facets of self. I thought it was me in my internal voice. So we almost kind of have to separate everybody from one another so that you can realize like, oh, no, wait a minute. This is my higher self and my intuition. It's not just me making stuff up in my head. But a way to do that and to funnel it more clearly is to do some type of activity like this. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more clear it becomes. And then you start to see like, oh, the things that she's saying up here are actually having tangible progress in my 3D paradigm. Like if I do the things that she says, the instructions that I get, okay, now I got it. Now I can trust myself and my inner children can trust me too.
Yeah, that's exactly where I need to be.
Yes. Okay. But we need some type of way to funnel it down so we can kind of prove to self. Okay. Now, with the answers that you get with your higher self, that's where you have to take action steps, which you're already doing. You heard that from your higher self of like, hey, maybe you should take singing lessons. And they're like, okay, I'll do that. Okay. Or even with this right here, she said, hey, why don't you get on that Zoom Okay, and get out of your comfort zone. And then you did it. So you are taking the action steps. But you are wanting more information to come through faster. Like, hey, I want to take even more steps. Is that right? Like, let's accelerate this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be a good way to get your instructions to come down. Okay. And to have them out in front of you instead of just like up here in your mind, because you already don't have enough space up here. If you are catastrophizing and in negativity land, which I totally get, okay, with the OCD thoughts, there's no room for higher self to come in because
I
we're in
know. That's
fear.
why I started therapy.
Yeah.
That's why I started therapy. I already knew like that my mind is just full of chatter all the time. And I am horrible at meditating. I have tried. It is not my thing, but I do sit. Um, I have aphantasia, so like
Yeah.
visualization, it doesn't work for me. So I just realized I had that where I can't visualize.
Still, meditation is not for everybody when you have a lot going on up here. Okay. It's almost, it feels impossible. Okay. But as somebody who had aphantasia, which I stopped saying I had aphantasia because I was actually blocking me by saying that. I said I am working on seeing images and then it started getting better and better. Okay. Oh dang, I lost it. Hold on. Dang, what was I gonna say? What were we talking about right before that?
Um, but it's aphantasia,
Oh,
right?
there's not enough
Third
room.
eye.
There's not enough room in. Okay. So when you are having all of these thoughts going 9 miles per hour, okay, still meditation doesn't work. Okay, it just makes things worse. Okay. So we need to be doing things that are called like active meditations. These are things that help us get into the flow states. And that is where our higher self and our intuition can actually speak to us instead of just sitting in stillness. So, like for me, it is dancing, listening to music, going outside and going on a silent walk, right? Because there's enough distracting me that I can actually kind of detach from my thoughts a little bit. And maybe for you, it's swimming. It's something that's keeping your actual physical body moving so that you have less thoughts running. That's when your higher self and your intuition can like talk to you more easily or with your inner children. Okay. So, one of the ways that you can also dump these thoughts out is to get out a sheet of paper and just write everything that you're thinking. Just fill up like 2 pages of random words, random phrases, irrational thoughts, whatever it is. That is going to clear your mind space so your higher self can actually contact you in the first place. You have too much energy up here, okay, that needs to be output. And one of the ways you can do that is through that journal dumping and just
Yeah, I'm gonna
writing
try
it
that.
all out. Just write just like 2 or 3 pages, like whatever comes out. That for a long period was the only way that I could clear my mind enough to even hear my inner children or my higher self. It's like, okay, well, I dumped it all out. Now it's all out here. And it's also a really good way to with catastrophizing, sometimes we're being irrational, but it doesn't
Oh
feel
yeah.
rational. But if you put it on the paper and you're actually reading it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like I might be doing too much. Okay. So that's another great way.
Sometimes when I'm in it, I don't see how irrational it is, but then afterwards, I
Yes.
will literally be laughing at myself at how silly it was that I got so upset in the first
Mhm.
place.
So if we are not keeping all that up here and we're actually dumping it here and then reading that we are being irrational,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's a great therapy tool. It's called like self-talk. And it's okay. It's okay that we still have these safety trauma responses. We also want to be very compassionate with our inner children for doing that. Okay. But outputting this, and then after you get all of that out of your mind space, then ask that question. Or when you're in the flow state, then ask the how, what, and why questions. Write down whatever your inner children say and whatever your higher self says. And don't let your logical and analytical minds say, oh, well, this and that and this. No, Sage said we're going to write down whatever comes to our brain. And we're going to keep on doing that practice. And it is going to have huge payoffs because we're going to be able to hear more clearly and start trusting ourselves. Like, this is going to have to be something that you dedicate time and energy to. Attuning your spiritual ears takes a lot of practice when you don't trust yourself, or you have some type of like religious programming, or you have like saying the spirits are evil or whatever, and you have catastrophizing as a safety trauma response. It's something that you got to put a lot of time and energy into, like busting through. But once you do bust through, it's like, oh my God, I can hear them so clearly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I say a lot of time and energy, I don't want to make it sound like to your inner children, oh my God, it's going to take years. No. How much dedication are you wanting to put into it is what I mean. Like, if this is something that we're making a daily practice, it's going to happen a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Questions about any of the things that we talked about?
Not really.
Okay. What was your biggest takeaway today?
Oh, I have a lot of information. I'm going to come back to the video too.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Usually I have to follow up, like come back and see, so I can take notes and write down what it is I'm, going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm going to send you your oracle cards and a picture of your crystal grid, and then I'll also send you the replay. And if you have any other questions that pop up, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay. I will talk to you next time. Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.